Jai Ma Kamakhya, Jai Bhairava, Jai Mata. So now that the Navaratras and the Durga Puja is over, uh, this video I have been planning to make for some time. This is basically uh, a few people had asked that sometimes once you start doing sadhana, you may face certain obstacles. So you start with a certain aim in mind, whatever that may be, and in the middle, or by the time you finish the sadhana, you may start seeing that there are some difficulties and obstacles that will come in your path. So how should one, as an upasak or as an individual, interpret that? So before we go into this, first, and this is most fundamental, you have to clearly ask yourself that what is it that you want, why are you doing this sadhana. There are two aspects. One is the material aspect, and which is known as the kamya sadhanas. We call it the kamya prayogas, or that which fulfills a certain desire or necessity that you may have. And the other is what we may call the basic spiritual progress. So your fundamental aim is that how do I enter into a deeper spiritual state? For that, there is a certain mindset, and when you want a specific result, then there is a different mindset. So if you want a specific result to happen, for example, a certain kind of financial prosperity, or this or that, or whatever, or health benefits, for example, or you want a new job, something. So there, the approach has to be different for any kind of sadhana. To maximize the results for an individual, for any specific material desire, it is very important to first understand that what are the grahas telling the individual, right? Because if a person is undergoing very bad planetary effects at a given point of time, then the amount of sadhana that will be needed, or amount of effort that will be needed in order to bring that to a positive turn of events, would entirely depend on the amount of blockages that are there in the karmas. And these blockages, the grahas by themselves are just indicators. They're indicating that what are the karmic blockages that you have. So every kind of obstacle that you face in your life, every kind of badha, every kind of negative as well as positive state that you face in life is more or less things, especially those which are very strong and those which are very impactful on your consciousness, are uh, nothing but things, karmic reactions of actions that you might have performed in some past life. So that those things are sort of, part of them are sort of the what we call the fixed karmas. Those fixed karmas you will have to undergo one way or the other. Doesn't matter whether you do sadhana, not do sadhana, whether you are a believer, whether you're an atheist, whether you are a person of a different religion, does not matter. Those karmas are fixed, and it has to be the soul in this incarnation has to undergo the experience of those karmas in order that it can process, or it can so that nature balances out uh, what are the the reactions of things that you might have done. So whenever there is a materialistic result one is aiming for, the ideal course of action is first understand what are the blockages, what is the chance of achieving that, and what are the impediments to it, karmic impediments, and how far of those karmic impediments to be uh, or can be overcome. That tells you what is the degree of success that you will attain. Leaving that aside, in general, we have also the idea that there are certain deities whom we know to contain or have the property or sort of control the portfolio of certain domains of life, and they have the ability to bless you in those domains. For example, it's common knowledge that we worship Lakshmi when we need wealth or prosperity. When we need knowledge, we worship Saraswati. So these are common knowledge. Almost every Hindu family has some or the other worship of Lakshmi that happens in the year. There's no doubt about it. And yet, it's not that everybody is, financially rich. It's not that everybody is above the. In fact, India is one of the countries where a lot of people still are below the poverty line. So we are all worshipping Lakshmi, no doubt. Thousands of people are worshipping, but results will be governed in the way of what we call a statistical data, which means that if 100 people are worshipping Mahalakshmi or Lakshmi, for example, Mahalakshmi is more powerful form or different warrior form of Lakshmi. If you're worshipping Lakshmi, if 100 people are worshipping, at any given point, say 60 to 70 of them will find positive results, but at least 30 of them, or in best of circumstances, 20 of them will not find positive results out of that. That is because their karmic blockages are so heavy that just worshipping once or normal worship of the deity may not yield the result that they have in mind. Because remember that there are certain blockages that one has due to actions of past life, which no deity is going to interfere and remove on their own. Because the principle is very simple. When those actions were performed, the soul did not ask permission of the deities. So why would the deity come and remove those actions, the consequence of the actions? You have to bear the consequences. Everybody has to bear the consequences of their own actions. That indeed is the first principle of human life when we look at it from the Sanatana Dharma point of view. Now, suppose somebody is doing Anushthan of a deity and has some hidden desires in the mind that I want XYZ results to happen, whatever the deity, it could be any Anushthan of any deity, XYZ results to happen or some positivity to come, and it does not happen. It normally is an indication of two things. One, there are strong karmic blockages. Number two, sometimes, in order to make a person more spiritual, in order to push them into spiritual progress in a greater sense, sometimes it's possible that certain amount of karmas that are blocking on that have to be experienced. The deities can make you burn those karmas faster, and whenever the karmas are burning faster, at that time, that is when you feel a certain degree of intensity in your life, for lack of better words. But the ideal way to go about this, if you are an upasaka, if you are worshipping a deity, the ideal way to go about this is that intensify the sadhana. In fact, I know of very categorical example. There is a certain tantra diksha which I know of, and I've seen people taking that over years, a lot of them, not one but many. And on a general statistical understanding that I've observed, after the Diksha, within a period of 1 to 1.5 years, more or less almost 70% of the people will face obstacles in their life in some of the other material aspects, whether it is some job related problem or some other issue or something like that turns up. Almost 70% of the cases after taking that Diksha. Does it mean that Diksha is wrong? No. It means basically that the deity, the Diksha is extremely powerful. In fact, what happens is that the deity wants to clear up certain karmas at a faster pace. Whenever that is being done, that is when you will face the intensity and the heat. There are two options here. That is when also you will be tested whether you have the material inside you to be able to make spiritual progress or not. If that is there, then you will intensify your sadhana. And if it is not there, then you can stop your sadhana and go about your life as it is anyway. It doesn't make a difference. So this, in fact, whenever, if you are entering into a spiritual path and you find that there are obstacles happening around you, take it as two things. One, there are certain karmic blockages that need to be removed by the deities, and that is what they are doing. In that case, what you do is you intensify the sadhana, you prolong the sadhana. You don't stop at one point. You take it further and see where it goes eventually. That is the first principle. And secondly, it also means that once the negative phase is over, once the karmic blockages or the intense karmas that are there, that are being churned by the process of the sadhana, after that, the more positive results, whatever they are in your destiny and stored for you, is bound to manifest in your life. But this process, this period of time, could vary for an individual from 6 months to a year to 2 years, etc. It depends. It again, everything is individualistic. You cannot pinpoint a certain particular time and a date and say ki for everybody this is going to happen. That never happens because everybody has their own destinies, their own karmas. So it is very crucial to understand that whenever you are entering into any spiritual path, any sadhana of any deity, if you are facing an obstacle there, it basically means that there are karmas that are blocking. And unless you are aware of your karmas, I mean, see, in a more philosophical point of view, if you are doing no sadhana at all, and there are many people who have no spiritual inclination, they don't go to any spiritual practice, nothing. Does it mean that they have no problems in their life? It's impossible. The moment you are born, from your birth till death, there are going to be both good times and bad times. And that is regardless of somebody doing sadhana or not. But what sadhana does is that it rearranges your karmas, because the philosophy of Sanatana Dharma is that all these experiences that you get is because of things that you have done in your past life. So only that Jivatma, that soul, your soul is responsible, and that is why nature is giving back these experiences to you, because there is no greater accountant in the universe than nature. Every experience, every single action will be accounted for, and the reaction that is generated is also brought back to the source from which the action actually happened. And about this, there is no doubt at all. This is the very fundamental basis, whether it's Jyotisha, whether it's sadhana, whether it's dharma, etc. One of the first principles, for example, on which is based an understanding of human life. So basically, whenever there are obstacles, it means that there are karmas that are being cleared off. And the best thing that a person can do is to become more steady and carry on the sadhana for longer periods of time, so that eventually, whatever the karmic implications or the karmic blockages that are there are a little bit smoothened out. Because your upasana, your sadhana that you do is like an umbrella, is like a shade that is given to you on a very stormy day, on a day of torrential rain. Your sadhana is your umbrella. It is not going to change the weather suddenly out of the blue, but it is going to give you some protection. This is how all sadhanas are designed. Having said that, this year there are certain graha combinations which are tough, and as I have mentioned in previous videos also, in the coming years too, these are going to remain tough. I mean, there are certain very volatile combination as Saturn passes through the few rashis that it is passing through right now. So a few years of tough times are there in general for people, and this is precisely the time when it is best to do good sadhana, because the more sadhana that you do, the more it adds to your spiritual merit. And in these kind of testing times, you make faster progress than in times when everything is very slow. This is also a very key principle of life in general. So, on this context, there's another very interesting thing that I wanted to share. There is a saying generally in certain sampradayas, and this is more specifically in one of the very old sampradayas, that whenever you are doing an anusthana, the first energy of the anusthana, first anusthana that you do of a deity, that energy goes off in clearing all the debts that you have to, whether it's to the pitrus, whether it's to something else that is there. In some cases, for example, I was dealing with a certain case months ago, not now, where eventually it was found that the individual had a certain curse in the family that was running for a very long time, because of which whatever practice was being done, whatever sadhana was being done, not only produced no result, but instead there used to be very weird obstacles that would start the moment they entered into any spiritual practice, and that even the most safest of spiritual practices. That is because of the effect of a curse that was there from very past lives, from many generations actually, not past life, but previous generations, because of certain activities that was performed by the family. So this kind of things also happen. So whenever you do an anushthan, and suppose your aim is spiritual progress, when you are doing an anushthan, the first energy that is generated out of the Anushthan is completely taken up by these kind of obstacles, whether it's pithrus, curses, this, that, etc., to satisfy the karmic debt that is there. Because when you do an Anushthan of a deity, it generates a lot of prana shakti. Those prana shakti, those energy that is generated is taken up by these things, so that they get, if not fully cleared, at least a part of the energy is neutralized by your sadhana. The next Anushthan that you do is taken up by the deities who live close by to wherever you are. It could be your Griha Devata, it could be your deity of the Kula, it could be some other deity or any other divine being or force that stays nearby to wherever you are located, who also needs certain offerings, and those energies that you generate are taken up by them. It's only when you do the third Anushthan, same deity, same mantra, same process, that is when the effect of the energy that is generated, the prana, the urja of the mantra, the shakti of the mantra that is generated, actually benefits the upasaka in a spiritual manner. So this is a principle that was followed in certain sampradayas over a long time, and it makes a lot of sense actually, because what is happening is, every time from the spiritual perspective, whenever you are doing any upasana of any deity, it's like, imagine that a person is cutting into a mountain with a hammer. So every time he's doing something, it's a little bit of the karmic energy that you carry from your past existences is being chipped off and slowly reducing. Only when sufficient amount of karmas have been cut through by the process of your sadhana, then a whole lot of spiritual experiences, genuine ones, and a transformation of the soul, of the consciousness of the upasaka starts. So keep these principles in mind. And remember that any time that you face obstacles in your sadhana, or you think that you have started your sadhana and there are certain, badhas or certain unexpected things that are happening, it could also be very likely due to planetary effects that are there, due to any other blockages that may be there. So in that case, whatever be the exact cause, either you have an option to actually go and analyze the grahas and find out, or a much simpler way is, it only indicates that you do more amount of the sadhana, not just stop there, but do more, intensify, so that eventually, if you keep doing that for, say, instead of one Anushthan, if you thought that there's an obstacle that happened in the first Anushthan, do it again, do it 3 times, do it 4 times. By the time you do the third or the fourth time, it is going to neutralize your karmas, and there's a good chance that you will actually start enjoying the process, and by then your consciousness will be in a state where you will be very less affected by the variations of the karmic currents that happen around you. And in fact, it may also produce certain positive results, but I'm not focusing on that at the moment. The idea is that the more you repeat the Anushtana of the deity, whether it's, for example, Ma Tara's Anushthan, very recently I advised somebody to do the Anushthan twice. Once completed, again start once. So as you keep doing it, it is going to neutralize various types of karmas that you have around you, and slowly but surely take you towards a state where you actually enjoy a more positive state of existence. Because at the end of the day, the whole secret of human life is a certain sense of bliss and happiness that you feel in the circumstances, and that can only come. So if it is not happening, it is mainly because there are karmic blockages, and the only easiest way to overcome those blockages is to intensify the sadhanas and carry them on, repeat them one after the other, repeat them, because it depends on each individual. As I mentioned, each one carries his or her own karmic destiny. So what is applicable for one, for somebody in one Anushthan, they may see a certain type of results. For somebody, they may have to do 2 or 3 Anushtans. It depends. So each time, once you enter the spiritual path, keep this in mind. The idea is to keep going, because every time, everything that you do is like adding something into your bank balance, spiritual bank balance. So one day, in that analogy that I gave, like somebody's chipping onto a huge block of mountain of rock, and as it is getting thinner and thinner, as it is getting the huge the shape of the rock, as it is reducing, as it is getting thinner, there's a pathway that is going to emerge. And that itself is the spiritual goal. That itself is the material goal. That itself is the goal of human life. So this is why we do sadhana. This is the way an upasaka thinks. However, as I mentioned right at the beginning, if you have very materialistic desires, very specific material desires, then you have to start with first analyzing the grahas and your own horoscope and see what are the key blockages that need to be removed. And after that, decide that what is the best thing to do. So this is like if you're very determined, or the other thing is you can choose a sadhana that more or less gels or more or less aligns with the goal that you have in mind. For example, if somebody has health related issues, they can do, it's generally advised that they do Mrityunjaya Japa of Shiva, Lord Shiva. But sometimes you'll see that even after Japa, you're not getting the result. That's mainly because the karmas that are causing that disease or that problem may be more intense than the amount of japa that you're doing. So it has only one solution. You have to increase the japa. You have to do it 2, 3, 4 times. For a certain individual, maybe 1 lakh japa of the mantra produces a certain positive effect. For some other individual, it may require 3 or 4 lakhs of japa. You cannot say that just like that without going into actual analysis of the problem. Same principle applies to all material aspects of life. But more or less, we have certain understanding of tendencies of deities. For example, if somebody is doing Lakshmi Upasana, or as I mentioned in my previous videos, if somebody is doing Ma Tara's 16th Thursday Upasana that I've mentioned, there is a good chance that it will realign your life into a more positive direction. It happens with a good percentage of people actually. I would say almost given the the kind of responses that I've seen, almost 70% of the people will feel this experience. But for the 30% who do not feel this, mainly because if there are blockages or grahas or other strong obstacles, one option is to repeat the Anushthan again, repeat the Anushthan at least 2 or 3 times, same rules, fasting on Thursday and carry on. Or if somebody is in a hurry, they should get their horoscope checked and see what are the blockages and what exactly needs to be done. And if at all that specific desire is there in that individual's destiny, that's also very important. Sometimes you may have a desire for a thing that is not destined for the individual. Then there's no point. Regardless of how much sadhana you do, you will never get it. So all these factors are there. It's important that once you understand, once you enter the spiritual path, you have this clarity so that, expectations and results are correctly aligned. With this, I'll end the video. I hope it answers some of the questions that few people have had regarding effects of sadhana, and suppose they did not get the kind of results they had expected, then how exactly should they approach that? So with this, I'll end the video. Jai Ma Kamakhya, Jai Ma Tara, Jai Bhairava.